Alright, and we are back. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth guide on Fade for Pearl. Going to be a lot of information in one video, so make sure you drop that like and make sure you hit that subscribe button. It'll help us out a lot. Thank you so much. Enjoy the video. Now, although this is an in-depth guide for Fade on Pearl, I'm not going to be telling you what every single ability does. If you want a beginner's guide for Fade, I'm more than willing to make that. But right now, I'm just going to show you the best things to do on Fade and make sure that it's very in-depth and explain why they're good. So like I said, if you want to see a beginner's guide on Fade on Pearl or any other map specifically, make sure to let us know in the comments and that'll get done for you ASAP. First things first, we're going to go over everything on the B site. So let's get right into that. Starting off towards B ramp or B long, you want to have a jet or an Astra to smoke or recall a smoke towards this B long cross so that you're protected from an op angle. Granted, they might shoot you through it and that's okay, that's unlucky. When you get about here, you want to whip out your Prowler. And with this Prowler, you're going to drag it all the way just like this. There. Now I know you might be thinking the Fade Prowler is not going to reach that far, but if there's somebody in that line of sight while you're making this adjustment, then it will reach that far. It'll lock onto that target. Say if you're wrapping this side of the pillar and there's somebody here, then this Fade Prowler will lock onto this person and it will make the extra distance. So you're going to wrap your Prowler just like this. Now once it hits here, it's going to make it to this angle as well. It might not look like it, but it is going to, because if there is somebody there, it's going to lock onto that person, like I said. So now that you cleared all of close, you only have to worry about the deeper angles. Now typically when you clear this with a Prowler, they'll usually, if they have an op, they won't smoke. But if they don't have an op, they'll typically throw a smoke here, and this is when you're going to utilize your Haunt. Now with your Haunt, you have a couple options. Now with your Haunt, you could either throw it on top of street. What I would do is throw it here or here. I would not throw it towards here, because usually it drops down like this. And this isn't going to benefit you a lot of information. So if you're throwing it on this roof, it'll get a little bit of heaven, all of back hall, and all of street. Same thing with this right here. If you stand in the middle of the pillar and look a little bit to the right and jump throw, it'll land perfectly on top of here. It'll clear all of street and all of screen, back hall, right side back hall, and even under heaven. The only things you have to be worried about is your top heaven, your CT, and all the way deep back hall. Keep in mind, you want to keep switching up the position on where you're throwing the haunts, because usually if you throw it in the same spot, they'll catch on and they'll break the eye instantly. Now let's say somebody got spotted by the haunt. You could either use your Prowler to go towards the person if you know that there's only one or two here max, but what I would do, let's say someone got spotted back hall with the haunt that I threw on top of street. What I would do is I would throw my Prowler towards screen, because it is possible for this player to tuck from that eye. So they could hide here and they could hide here. The reason why I'm not throwing my Prowler towards the person who got spotted by Haunt is because we have that information, but we don't have all of the information yet. That's why I'm throwing my Prowler towards screen, to see if anyone is screen tucked from the Fade eye. That way if we throw the Prowler towards the person we spot at back sight and there happens to be someone sitting screen, that is on you that you're not clearing these angles. You are the initiator. You have to make sure the site is initiated and clear for the team to entry. I get that jets and whatever have to make space, but your job is to help them create that space by eliminating short angles like this so that they can benefit from entering easier. So if we do it all together, it would look like this. We're going to look towards the right here, jump Fade eye. We'll land up there. We're going to Prowler towards screen if it spots nobody. And we could even bend it towards the right too. And if it's somewhere right here, then it could also get spotted by the Prowler if there's nobody's screen, and it will target the player towards back hall. And now we have your Cs. For your Cs, I typically like to throw it towards back here if maybe he hid from the Fade eye or the Prowler that you threw. Typically you want to throw it right around here so you see the center of the Cs so that you know if somebody's stuck in it or not. Now for our Nightfall. For our Fatal, we want to throw it exactly how I'm displaying right here, and I'll zoom in on it for you so you can see perfectly. The main reason why we're doing this type of Fatal is because back hall is one of the biggest spots on B that you want to make sure is fully clear. And typically, if they're playing here, this is a one and done angle. So this player is either going to swing or kill the bomb, and he should get util dumped by the rest of your team. But your utility is for clearing the site itself. It's perfect because it hits all of tunnel or CT, and it gets all of heaven, right side and left side. Not only does it get all of the actual site, it gets the angles that it needs to get. And you might be wondering why you're not putting it more towards street. And that's because street typically will be smoked off 90% of the time. And if it's not, then the haunt would have seen the person on street and we know somebody's there. A fatal is very good for information and also enabling your team to get onto site easier because they'd be more paranoid with the lack of hearing. So we would just throw a fatal like this. And now our whole entire site should be easy to take. Granted, I understand that Valorant is a game where a lot of BS happens, and that's okay. But this is what you should be doing with all of your Fade utility. Now let's cover over mid. For your Prowlers, it's only good if you use them to either go one direction. You can go mid door with it, or you can go art with it. If you don't have a duelist out mid already, you want to be using this Prowler to clear off the aggressive angle on mid door. That would look something like this. And if you do have a duelist out here or another teammate out here, then you want to use your Prowler for close so you can get the best distance on your Prowler. Now what I did is I cleared here with the Prowler, but also cleared this angle here. These are the two most crucial angles that someone needs to clear when they're going towards street. Same thing if you're coming from top mid this time, you want to throw your Prowler towards art. You want to make sure you get around the box in art because a lot of people like to play this ratty box angle. Although it is fully spammable, a lot of people typically don't spam that box. But if you are all the way up art, it is a spammed box and everything, then you want to use your Prowler like this. Same thing I did with street, I cleared this angle here and I also cleared this angle here with the Prowler, granting us the most distance possible with the Prowler being close up. For our Cs, there's only a couple options you have. If you know somebody likes to swing out mid-door, or if you know somebody likes to swing out art, then you would throw your Cs towards that direction and capitalize with another teammate, typically a duelist. That way, if you know an enemy likes to swing mid-door, you can sit here in shops, ping where you want to throw it, look up, jump, running, throw. And now the player that likes to swing is seized. Same thing with art, but if you want to be throwing a seize towards art, you want to be towards shops. That way it's a very open throw. You could simply just run through it. Now this player here, you can have your jet dash on them, or your raised satchel on them, or your phoenix run up and flash them. Whatever duelist you might have can easily capitalize off of a seized enemy. Now for our haunt. What I like to do if I'm throwing a haunt towards street is I like to throw it somewhere on this roof itself. What I like to do is stand right here in the middle of this tile out of these three. I like to look directly in this little loop in these rings. And I like to jump throw. Now this is going to get anybody who's on street and even a little bit of someone who might be playing a connector. And for art, the best way to eye art is through a main. If you line up right here in the middle of this pillar and look a little bit above the bottom of the window here, kind of almost where this painting on the ceiling lines, you can just simply left click it. And this will clear all of art. If we're going to invest our fatal in mid, it's typically only to rush one side. If you're going towards art, it would be something like this. You want to make sure that you're getting this part of connector and you're getting this part of a link. So it'd be exactly like this. I'll zoom in on it so you guys can see what it is. And you're just going to left click. That way your team can scale all the way up art and anyone in this vicinity will all be deaf. Now for street, it's a hard one because you want to typically block off this person, but you also want to be able to stop and hit somebody who's here. But you can't do both. So this is where you're going to have to make a critical thinking decision to decipher whether somebody likes to play connector more on the other team or somebody likes to play deeper street. But if you're unknown, you can either just throw the ult kind of in the central area. So you can get this and this, which are the two most crucial like I mentioned before, and you could just left click. But if you're going to have a teammate smoke this off, then you could throw this ult. And you can get anybody who's close towards B site. Now let's talk about A. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to haunt or prowler close A main. First thing we're going to do with A main is we're going to use our haunt to clear super close if anyone is swinging. So we would throw it on this tiling here where we'd aim a little bit above it and we would just simply throw. The reason why you want to throw it here is because it can get all of A main. But if you throw it on this roof like a lot of people like to, they could still tuck from this eye and hang behind this wall, and it's not really good for your team because they're going to assume that it's clear when it's really not. And if we don't want to invest our eye, that's where our prowler comes in. That's where we walk up and we could use our prowler close. Now that everything is close here, we're up here. If we use the prowler, that's okay. We have one more and we have our C's and our haunt still, which is very good. For our second prowler, it would go something like a square. It would go here, 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 here. I'll explain the reasoning after I use the prowler. Here's the prowler. When I'm throwing it close, it clears the close angle. When I'm towards here, it'll clear anyone back sight. And then when it goes this way, it'll clear anyone towards art. That way, it numbs down your options to flower or secret or dugout instead of backside, a link, or close right. So you pretty much cancel out 3 of the 6 options on this site. Now if you saved your haunt, you want to make sure your haunt goes on top of this roof, but you want to make sure you're not exposed to link or flowers when you're doing this. The easiest way for me to remember where to throw my haunt on top of this building is I line up in the middle of this box. I look a little bit above right here, aligned with this corner of the wall, and I would running jump throw. Now anyone who's in dugout will be spotted, anyone who's swinging secret will be spotted, and your team can scale on sight very easily. Not only does it hit dugout and all of sight, but it also hits a bit of link. That way your team will know if somebody's fast rotating through link to come fight for A main. And now for a fatal, it would look exactly like this and I would not change a thing about it. I'll back up to show you exactly where I am. And we would simply just left click. Now let's cover some defense. As Fade on defense, your job is to get a lot of information, but at the same time, it's not as crucial as attack, so I mainly went over attack in this video, but if you want to see a more in-depth on defense, I can make that as well. I'm just going to show you the very little necessary things that you need to do as Fade on defense on Pearl. So let's just get right into it. Towards a site, you want to look at this window lined up with this pillar here, a little bit to the left of it, and just jump throw. That way it's getting all of A main. Another eye for outside of A, the barrier will be right around here. What you want to do is stand on the barrier and just look at the very bottom of this window, not up like we did when we were attacking, but look at the very bottom and just simply left click. Just to show you, I'll zoom in exactly where you need to aim. Like I said, just a little bit above the window, and we're just gonna left click. Then for mid, you have a couple options. The easiest one is obviously just to chuck the eye anywhere outside mid. Typically they'll hide from it, so it's not really beneficial for your team if you use your Fade eye in mid. One that I like to do is I like to line up in this box here, and I like to aim very high and jump running throw. That way it gets on top of here, so if anyone is swinging top mid, then that will hit them automatically. But with this eye, you want somebody playing street to make sure that your shops is not open. But in my opinion, the overall best Fade eye in mid for Pearl is right here, line up with this individual pillar, and you want to look right above his head where the gray line meets the yellow line, and I'll zoom in on that, and you're just going to left click. And this is going to hit everything in mid, and it's even going to hit deep shop. Keep in mind, your prowler and your C's are typically used when you know where somebody is. That way you can utilize that and fight with it rather than waste it for quote-unquote information. It's better to use your Fade eye for information because that is on a regen. Your other utility is not regeneratable, so it's not good to use those things early on in the round. Now that we went over our Fade eyes on A and mid, let's go over to B. Typically, any eye on top of this roof or on top of this clock tower are the best that you can do towards B site. If you want early B long information, then I would throw my eye towards here or on top of clock tower. And to do that, I would simply line up in this corner. I would look a little bit above and to the right of this clock tower, and I would jumping throw. Now anyone B long is spotted, and if they're already scaled up, this eye is okay for sites, but it's not the one that I would use. I'll show you the one that I would use now. will be in the same exact corner. We'll look at this corner here on the clock tower, and we'll look all the way to the right till we line up with this right here. So it'll look something like this box here, and we would just left click. That way this fade eye is getting almost every bit of sight. The only thing you have to really be cautious about is right here and right here. Now from street, this is also where our C's comes in play. The best C's to do from street is simply just right here, looking up over here in this direction, and just running through. That way this lands in the middle, and anybody in this big radius is going to be seized. It's the perfect seize in the map pro. And this is where our prowlers come in handy. You want to make sure back hall is one of the spots that you prowler all the time. If you're retaking from street, you could still make it to back hall. And if you want, you can clear the close angles as well. Now for our ults, if you know they play on site, which typically they won't, maybe 1 or 2 players max, because this is the most common site to simply just plant directly right here and go play all long and just play spam, play util dump, whatever it might be. This is the #1 site on the map other than Sunset B site that you would just sit there, plant the bomb, and all run back into main and just spam. But if they are on site, I would not use my fade ult towards site. It's just no point in wasting something so crucial for your team on 1 or 2 people. That's what you have your prowlers for, your haunt, and your C's. It'll all give you that information that somebody is there. So there's no point to waste your fade ult. So we would typically use our fade ult exactly like this. And the main reason why we're doing it like this is because we know that they're not going to be fully exposed in this line, so you don't have to hit that with your fade ult. They're going to be hiding behind pillar, or they're going to be all the way deep ramp, playing off of either tap or util or whatever it might be. So that's why you want to aim your fade ult directly towards this area. And we would just left click. That's pretty much all I got for you guys today. I hope this video was nice and lengthy for you, so you really get a good in-depth guide on Fade. If you want to see any specific agent on any specific map, be sure to let me know down in the comments. I will do any single agent in the game. I've been Chris Your Cookie, otherwise known as CG Cock. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Peace, peace.